I started out in this whole really drawn out endeavor trying to essentially pay the bills. We, I bought a Cricut a long time ago and did hand cut signs, and it was, not, it wasn't something I was passionate about, that's for sure. But if I could make something and bring in a little extra cash, I had just gotten married, we'd bought a new house, had a kid right away, and started a new job. So I was starting at the bottom of the totem pole, and I needed some extra cash, and I started to really enjoy how it made me feel to have somebody that was super happy with the product at the end. I wasn't really in love with the idea of what I was doing. I wasn't excited to go do it, but I was really excited to see at the end how that person felt and how much they loved it and how it was a part of something for them. I think one of the first things I ever did was a wedding guest sign book thing for my brother-in-law's wedding, and they loved it, and they turned it into they ended up turning the sign into a end table top, and it was really cool, and seeing how much they loved it was the reward for me more than anything. So one day, me and my really good friend were driving around, and she was asking me how it was going with stuff, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing it. I really don't like it that much. It's fun, but it's a lot of extra stress for somebody that has a full-time job and has kids and a family to take care of. We talked about the better aspects of maybe trying to revamp it into something different, and she was thinking about kicking off her photography business, and we actually kind of collaborated on something before either of us actually had a business to collaborate with. But we were talking about her doing photography and me implementing it into something that I could create for home decor. And we kind of kicked off, well, I'll launch my gig and you launch your gig, and let's see how it ends up. And currently now they're both doing great. But I just decided to finally maybe not go with the widely accepted aspects of the decor that I was making and give it a flair that I actually appreciated and I liked. Turns out if you try to do something that you like, other people will like it too. So it took off, and now I am building signs. My big deal right now is my mirrors with a little bit of Western flair, and we ship them all over the country, Canada, Alaska, all the things. So it's been
That's fantastic.
a whirlwind, really.
Yeah, and I understand the way that goes. Same exact thing. I can remember, when we transitioned, we haven't even really transitioned yet. We built our own personal set of mugs when we were in college and just took them to parties and stuff. And then after college, we were building them for friends. Where Matt and I would both go to the same wedding over the weekend or whatever. We'd come home and build a set of mugs together, and very, very labor intensive. And you have like a lot of time invested in this like quiet corner of a shop building, and you're just building these mugs for these specific human beings. And I remember spending that time, like my thoughts would just drift towards those people. And I got a lot of quiet time to reflect on my friends, and like they're starting to begin their life together. And then these mugs were going to be in their home. And, it was all the positive feedback I needed to just like keep doing it. It was such an enjoyable kind of process that developed out of those early mug builds. And then as we, years went by and we officially launched our business, and we we're building these mugs for, as the company developed and our customer base grew, we're building this for strangers. But that same thought process kind of followed that, and it just became like more of this. It was the same thought, but with a question mark at the end, like whose home are these going to be in, and like what's their story, and who are they going to sit around the kitchen table with these mugs. And that was the energy that I think was kind of put into the build of each mug, and it just became this really genuine like thing that, looking back, that's the kind of the sentiment I think we're choosing to try to lean into, like we spoke about at the beginning of this conversation with like relationships. And yeah, we are shipping our products to potentially strangers all over the country, but I think there's a kind of an unspoken relationship there through our products because our talents and our time have went into them in such a heavy way, being a hand built product, and that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, entirely. I mean, the idea of you literally building something that somebody chooses to either use or I see comments and they're like, oh, we designed our kids nursery around a piece that you're going to send it. Like, that's saying something at the end of the day. Like, that means just such a large amount of gratification. Like, it's an immense feeling. Yeah.
It's huge and it's everything. It's like it's the human connection. It's very, very real. It's as real as it gets, right? And I think I talk about this a lot, and I think about it even more. But like in the world we're in with connectedness and the internet, and you're always plugged in. Like those are the things that you're never like technology will never replace those types of sentiments and those types of connections. And that's pretty cool that we have, I guess, respectively landed on these products that people A love and that B stand to kind of carry that weight. It's pretty cool. And then in the world of marketing, one step further, that's kind of a noisy world. You spoke about Instagram before, and there's just a lot going on, and it's kind of the world you live in where you're like worried if what you're going to do works and if it moves the needle and all this. But there is with the mugs, like they need built, and there is a moment of the day when you're building a mug or building a mirror, that you have this like long quiet period, and it's just you and your process, and your thoughts kind of creep into the scenario. And it's just an important part of, I think, both of our businesses. Probably it's interesting. I like that kind of stuff.
Definitely. Mm-hmm.
That's the
Yep.
hippie in me.
I think the idea of having, making sure that you have that with your customer base, and I don't even know that you would call it your customer base, but the people that respect you and your product and your work, having that connection with them is the security that you need throughout the day when you start to say, is this going to be enough? Am I enough? Am I going to be on top of it? Am I on the next thing? You don't have to second guess yourself so much all the time if you have that relationship with those people. And you see that, I see that with somebody coming back to me and saying, I love this piece. Make me something for my friend because I want them to love it equally, or I want another piece for this event or this area in my home. You see those people come back to you and they trust the process, they trust you, and especially when they give you that like creative free reign too. Like they trust that you are going to give them something that's going to be awesome quality, but also unique and something that they're going to see fits their individual taste and what they like.
That's right. That's huge, and those are like big shoes to fill. Um, but I think that they're coming to you. I think the shoes have already been filled at the point they're coming to you, right? But like that's one thing that I've thought about with our mugs. Like they might have our mugs already, and they want a custom set with their grandpa's brand on there, or something. And you've lived in ranch country, like the sense of history and love and hard work and sentiment that comes with like a ranch and something like a cattle brand or a ranch brand. Um, and so like for Handlebend to be the gift that they choose to convey that sense of pride, like within their family, and give to someone they love as much as their grandpa, it's like, wow, I just feel pretty humbled that like we've gotten to a place where we can provide that for them and that they trust in our products to carry that impression.
Yes, it's a one of the most rewarding feelings to be trusted. We do a lot of that custom stuff too. And just to have somebody say, yeah, I want this, like, this is part of my family, my legacy, my heritage. I trust you to do something cool with it. Like, yeah, it's pretty wild.
It is. It is. We're both building things by hand, and it kind of has that artisan nature to it. And like we already spoke about, I think that that carries a certain level of relationship that you build with your customer. And I hate, just like you said, that the word customer doesn't even feel right in most cases, but I guess maybe it's the human whose path is crossing Handlebends. Um, so there's that piece of it, but then there's also the piece that I think both of our products are something that people are not afraid. Obviously they're a higher end price point, right? It's not, you could go functionally grab drinkware that is going to be far cheaper that would serve essentially the same purpose. But I've seen people kind of coming full circle over the last, something that I feel like has been trending the past 40 years has been cheaper, mass production, um, replaceable, those kinds of things. And I feel like the tide is starting to change, and people my age and even younger are starting to come full circle, and they're not afraid to spend more money on something that, number one, they can shake the hand or they know the person that physically produced it. And then number two, the notion of like buy once, cry once, right? Like this is potentially something that if I take care of it, I'll have it forever. And so you start to look at the cost of that, and it dials it back a little bit. And then, you know, um, one step further, I guess, is if you buy a Handlebend mug or a mirror or something, home decor for you, like you kind of do have that unwritten contract with the producer. And if something does go wrong down the road, like you can get me on the phone and I'm going to be happy to fix it or make it right with you. And I see some similarities in our end products, and just wondered if you would speak a little bit to that, or maybe some examples of things that, I guess I don't know exactly how long you've been in business for, but there's got to be some pieces out there that are getting some age on them, and have been hanging in the living room of someone's place and gathering some stories.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was probably just within the last couple weeks. Somebody, my very beginning early brass bunkhouse pieces were still with the cricket, but not not of the same. My preliminary name that I don't speak of much was Country Creations, and all the things cliche, irrelevant though. But some of those very beginning pieces where I was doing, some vinyl stenciling, things of that nature. And while I liked those pieces because they were my style, they were what I wanted to make, not what somebody else wanted me to make. Somebody came to me not too long ago and was like, I've had this piece forever. I love it. I'm so excited to buy. They're trying to do a custom piece with me, a custom mirror. And to see that full circle, that somebody that bought one of my very first brass bunkhouse pieces, that was back in 2019, coming back and wanting me to now custom make them something currently was just kind of crazy. I don't know. Just somebody that had been following along for that long, sitting in the shadows, waiting for themselves to come up with something that they really wanted, and still came back to me to create it. Just, it did show me that, like, hey, I'm putting stuff out there that people really enjoy. They trust me. I'm making something solid that, I mean, to me, some of these pieces are what I would consider almost an heirloom investment. You're going to keep these, like you said, you're going to take care of them. They should withstand some time. And you put these things out there with their custom brands, their names, their wedding gifts. And if somebody were to come to me and ask me if something were to go wrong, 100%, I'm going to take care of it. Just like everything that goes out my door is insured. That's a lot of time. And dedication into a piece, I'm going to insure it when it leaves my door. I'm going to make sure that they get it for sure. But beyond that, I have had people come back that have bought something from me before they had been married, and they want to add, or they want to change additional pieces, change the piece that they have. And that's rewarding to me because they had probably held on to that for at least a year, and they want to bring it back. They don't want to just buy something new. They want to bring it back and have something added to it or changed to it. And that means a lot to me. That means that my piece is still out there. They still love it, and they intend to keep it and make it be a part of their next chapter.
Yeah, they cherish it.
I don't know. It can't get more rewarding than that,
No, and that's a little bit of it. That speaks a little to the kind of the lifetime nature of your art. Like it can live and breathe and change with someone's journey and their family and the changes that we all experience in the family life. So that's really neat. It also made me think of it also made me think of you talked about the person that had uh, bought something from you very early on when it was custom country creations or whatever. And I would imagine, like, I look back at some of the old mugs, actually the first mug I ever built for myself, and I'm just horrified. I'm like, oh my goodness, like that thing is terribly ugly. Like, we've learned a lot by way of aesthetic, since those days, but that's all in retrospect, right? Like, I thought that mug was the coolest thing ever when I was doing it, and I was very, very proud of it. Um, and regardless of my necessarily like perspective of it in retrospect, like there's still people out there that the story of that mug, it's just as interesting to them as it was to me back in the day. But that's what that kind of made me think of when you were talking about your old stuff. I'm sure there's some of that stuff out there that just horrifies you, but still means a lot to who has it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and who's to say that some of them even really know, that's so much your own reflection of yourself and your process and where you've come from. You and I guarantee you that in 5 years I'll do it again. I'll say, we've changed this process. We've maybe made this more efficient, and it might not be about the product. It might be about your process. It might be about the aspect of, I sit here, I watch myself every day, ship, create, do all the things in my kitchen, in my house. And I'm sure at some point, someday, I'm going to be like, how did we do that? Or I cannot believe I was doing that. But that's your process, and that's your story.
Yep. You got to live day by day. Talking about running this business out of your home and stuff kind of took my mind towards kind of the small town Nebraska story. Were you born and raised where you're at, or how did you come there, and did you leave for a time and come back, and kind of what drove you to live your life in small town Nebraska?
Well, I didn't come from too far. I haven't ever wandered too far either. So, growing up in Elgin, pretty familiar with the territory I'm in now over here in Bartlett. So, high school sweethearts will do that to you, I guess.
Yeah.
So got married, started a family in Bartlett, and I'm still here. We're actually closing on a new home this week, and we're going to move a little bit south to Erickson, not very far yet again, but that's where my husband grew up. So we're working on what probably is going to happen for the time being is we're going to move the shop to my new home, but at some point here in the next year, we're gonna work on building a shop in Bartlett, and getting everything out of my home would be ideal. So
Awesome. Cool. Well, congrats on that. And I'm familiar with the area. My mom is from Spalding, Nebraska, and my dad's from Greeley, Nebraska. And so my childhood weekends were all spent down in that country. And my grandpa was raised up by Erickson, so back when he was a kid. So pretty familiar with the hills of that country. It's a good place to live.
definitely, yep. I wouldn't have it any other way. That's for sure.
Yeah, that was something we looked at. I went to college down in Lincoln, and then as did my wife. We were high school sweethearts from both from here in O'Neill as well, um, and bought our first home, had our first jobs down in the Lincoln and Omaha area, and lived down there for about 10 years after college. And we knew all along that when it came time to raise kids, like we would move back towards home and um, dive into the rural life so we could kind of offer our kids the same upbringing that we had. And it's been huge. It was the right decision, um, without question. I think it's probably the best place in the world to live.
I'd argue that for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't want my kids to probably grow up any other way. I mean, just the overall closeness. I mean, you can go on days talking about the rural lifestyle, but I mean, at the end of the day, having that community around you that, is second to your own family only is pretty rewarding, and you couldn't ask for anything of more value for your life. I couldn't put a price on having the small town lifestyle for sure.
I couldn't agree more, and that's beautifully put. I would say, that sense of community. It's almost like a step back in time, for sure. So, anything else?
I just think probably, I don't know, I don't know in your opinion, but like at the end of the day, having the passion for something, anything, whether it be your mugs or my mirrors or somebody's jewelry or whatever it is, I just feel like the passion at the end of the day, me thinking for the majority of my 30 some years of life that I was not a creative person, the passion to do something that you really care about will bring you full circle of whatever it takes to do that daily. I never would have thought I would have been in this place 5 years ago. I never would have thought I would have made a full-time gig out of doing this. I can't even say that I set a goal or I told myself I was going to do it. I can say that I didn't have to. The passion to do something I really cared about and see other people appreciate it the way that I appreciated it has been all that has taken for me to continue to do it every single day and love it. As a maker and coming up with something different and making it into your everyday livelihood has just been so rewarding, but also just mind-blowing to me. Coming in up at a year of doing this full-time, having quit my job, I still find myself in almost like a catch-22 that this is what I wake up and do every day.